Welcome back, everyone. Before we get into the meat of today's lesson, I have a few announcements for our new faces. 1, hold all applause for the end of the lesson so my rhythm stays intact. 2, you are not to call me Mr. or Sir, and especially not Doctor at any time. I didn't work my arse off for close to 10 years to be called Doctor. With that out of the way, we'll continue on from our last 2 semesters. We left off at the turn of the century between 1800 and 1900. For close to 50 years, music stayed much the same. Big band and instrumental groups dominated, but then everything changed with the invention and production of the electric guitar. Those big band and instrumental groups fell away as jazz, blues, country, and eventually rock and roll took over. The electric guitar was a major breakthrough for music as a whole, especially because of Leo Fender and the mass production of electric guitars. But at the end of the day, it's only a means to an end. It's the artist who really drives the music. Artists like B.B. King, Jimi Hendrix, and Bob Dylan. Classic blues song right there by the late and great B.B. King. Jazz, blues, and country weren't meant to stay in the limelight, though. Rosetta Tharpe came up with a wild new sound we call rock and roll. When rock was first introduced, it had little grab for most Americans because folk was on the rise again, especially once Bob Dylan became active. It's because of Dylan and his stand on society that music is the way it is now. Dylan took the stage at the Newport Folk Festival on July 24th, 1965, with a Fender Stratocaster around his neck and forever changed music. It was the first time anyone played an electric guitar instead of an acoustic when playing folk, and the public was very much opposed to this, with anywhere from a third to half of the crowd booing and leaving. Dylan pretty much invented folk rock because he stood up against mainstream media. Rosetta Tharpe may be the godmother of rock and roll, but it was Bob Dylan who changed how we look at music, despite what several of my other esteemed colleagues might say. Dylan was so huge, even Hendrix did covers of his songs. That was totally fine with Dylan. In fact, to this day, he still introduces All Along the Watchtower as a Hendrix song because he felt Hendrix did it more justice than he ever could. Like most American musicians in the 1960s, Dylan got a lot of inspiration from jazz and blues artists in the 1940s and 50s. But it wasn't just American musicians that got inspiration from jazz and blues. With the 1960s came the first of many British invasions. I'm sure everyone has listened to bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones at least once in their lifetimes. It just so happens that a lot of British rock bands also took inspiration from American jazz and blues in the 1940s and 50s because they were all flocking over to England and Europe. Most Americans didn't want jazz and blues at the time unless it was done by white people due to racial and cultural differences. So much happened in the 60s, it's not really surprising it just flowed into the 70s as well, but with a few added twists. In the 70s, heavy metal was born, with Black Sabbath as its figurehead. Metal wasn't the only new genre, though. Psychedelic rock was also extremely popular, with reports of it being best with acid, weed, or both. I'm sure you're wondering how folk relates to psychedelic rock and metal. It's very simple, actually. When Dylan took the stage, he didn't just start the folk rock revolution. He inspired the masses to go out and play what they wanted to, however they wanted to. He was an inspiration then, and he still is now. Guns N' Roses' cover of the song Knockin' on Heaven's Door is just one example of many that showed Dylan had a lasting impact on music throughout time after he went electric. But it wasn't just Dylan's guitar playing that was inspiration. His lyrics have also been cited as heavy influence for many bands. James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica, has stated on many occasions that he drew inspiration from other artists while working on lyrics for albums such as the infamous Black Album, namely artists like Bob Dylan and Bob Marley, both of whom are known for incredibly powerful lyrics. If drawing lyrical inspiration wasn't enough for you, just look at Nirvana and all the other big grunge bands of the 90s. While very daunting for some because of the sound, in a way it was a throwback to the 60s. The music was simple, but the lyrics had immense power. Very comparable to Dylan and Marley and all the other influential artists in the 1960s. Before we get out of here, I want to take a moment and recognize the loss of a legend. Chuck Berry passed away this last Saturday, and it was a major blow to the music community and myself. So tomorrow, we're going to take a look at the legacy he left behind.